Okay, here we are once again,
CPI.
CPI LA with Ishmael and also Joey.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. So as we're recording this, obviously a lot of our comrades are in Minneapolis for the next workshop. And speaking of, we're going to be doing a workshop here in LA. All you LA people or Southern California people or even Northern California people, I'll be reaching out to you too as it gets closer to that time. And we're planning for April 19th, and we'll have more updates on that soon as we get access to a resource which is basically about how to create a workshop.
Yeah.
So, but we were having conversation here about economics and how that topic is usually left out of most conversations because, well, the people at the top, as we've said many times, it's important that they always work on and find ways, pretty much 24/7, how they're going to continue to stay on top. So they don't want conversations and organizing around the topic of economics. And many of us at the Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Los Angeles in my case, we saw how, at least initially, there was concern. Everybody is there all across the political spectrum, all ages, races, ethnicities, religions, sexual orientations, genders, everybody was there. And I think that freaked out the establishment because we're actually, for the first time since the 1930s, having an economic discussion in public spaces and not just in a few. I mean, there were smaller cities that also had Occupy encampments. And so they were basically all using the model that was used in Spain called M15, so, and then we know that initially it was, it was a movement, or not really a movement. I call it a happening, because the establishment found a way to obviously infiltrate and make it ineffective, and the rest is history. So, but that was economics. That was the last time that really was discussed amongst, at least in this country, millions worldwide, but hundreds of thousands of people in this country in public spaces were discussing economics for the first time since the 1930s. So that's why we feel the same way. That's why you can look at the mainstream media now, you can look at all aspects of the political spectrum. They're not talking about economics. They're not focusing on that, at least in a way that affects most people's lives. Now, to be fair, Trump did talk about bringing jobs back here, so that companies would get incentives to come back to the United States and create salaried jobs, right?
Yeah.
So that is, I guess, part of the economic conversation, but it's really only the beginning. Or cutting wasteful spending in the government, which we don't really know enough about. And to Tulsi Gabbard's credit, didn't she suggest cutting the military budget in half? Well, I think that came from Tulsi Gabbard, though, right?
It was Jill Stein.
Well, Jill Stein mentioned it, but there's talk about that as well, which that would be huge. As you think about, well, this past year we must have hit a record. It must have been at least $1 trillion. It just incrementally kept increasing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It just kept going up, and which kind of contradicts the trope that they were saying that Trump was a Russian asset, because even though they were saying that they were still increasing the military budget, which, why would you do that if you think he's a Russian agent?
Right.
And then they were still decreasing spending on social services, which was affecting low-income communities. And now with this budget cutting jobs, it's going to eliminate a lot of well-paying jobs that is going to hurt the actual economy.
Right,
people are going to lose their homes because they're not going to be able to pay their mortgages. And then it's just, like Kate mentions, like they're trying to cut themselves into growth, and that's just not possible. But they're also trying to tariff themselves into growth too. They're trying to make it that companies or corporations can't go to third world countries to make production and obtain super profits. Now they want to bring those factories back home, which is a good thing. But if they're gonna be raising the prices and not raising the wages, it's not really gonna make a difference. They're trying to block a $30,000 car from coming in to make it worth $45,000, and then if people can't afford a $30,000 car at the moment, how are they going to afford a $45,000 car with the tariffs? But also the native manufacturers in the U.S., they're going to be expensive too, because you're going to have to pay the benefits and the wages to the workers that are working those jobs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's still kind of early because it sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds good.
It sounds good, or it looks good on paper, but what's it going to be in reality once it actually happens, right? Because it's always actions that speak louder than words, right? That old saying is true. So the same thing with ending the war in Ukraine. That has a tremendous economic benefit by not having to print money anymore to send it to Ukraine, and we can certainly use it here. What happened in Baltimore with the bridge there, and then New Palestine, Ohio, the train crash, and Pacific Palisades in Altadena, right down the street here from where we are right now. I mean, we need that money here.
Yeah.
So, and then we also need to have conversations about how economics, I think, is connected to everything you can possibly imagine, because most people don't want to have that conversation. You name the topic and it's connected to economics somehow. So also the system. That's a whole nother conversation that we can get into later. But for now, it's, cutting the budgets and bringing business back to the U.S. so that there can be more job creation.